Hey, welcome back to the Field Trip Podcast. Joining me for part 2 of the best movie opening scenes. It's Gavin Eddings.
Hey, what's going on, Brent? Glad to be back. There are so many movies out there that have good openings. You're exclusively a movie opening podcast. Now, any movie we see, whether it's bad or good, we'll be like, what a great opening.
That's true.
Believe?
Yeah. And we turned off the mics and I posed the question on Twitter, what's the best movie openings? And after, we did the first episode and then I'm looking at the list. I'm like, there are so many more that we could talk about. And this has been a great way for me to see 1/12 of a movie that I've never seen.
Like before this list, I don't want to spoil anything, but before this, I love musicals, but there's a musical on here that I had never seen.
I haven't either. And after watching it, I probably won't watch the rest of it. But
I didn't know it was the opening. I had no idea.
Yeah, but I knew the scene. That's the thing is it's an iconic. We'll get to it. Okay.
Yes.
Let's do some plugs, Gavin. What do you got going on? And then we'll get into our topic.
All right. My name is Gavin. I have a YouTube channel called Gavin Loves Horror. I'm also a stand-up comedian. I also perform stand-up. So if you would like to know any stand-up dates coming up, you can follow me on Facebook at Gavin Eddings. Of course, the horror YouTube is going to be Gavin Loves Horror. I'll be performing in Newburgh, Indiana on March the 12th at Jennings Station Public House. Should be a lot of fun. Tickets are on sale for that now. I am with Keith McGill and Danny Browning. If you're in the Midwest, you know those names very well. They are very, very funny.
Yeah, I like both those guys, and I did a prison show with Keith McGill. So
yeah,
we bonded quickly. So
because you were incarcerated slightly thereafter, and then for some reason they put you together in the same bunk. So
I did, and I was actually at the prison show. It was the talent show. I was already incarcerated. So
you were trying to get out. You're like, if I get first prize, I get paroled.
Yeah, they knock some time off your sentence if you get first prize. So
it's the saddest Suicide Squad.
We're all gunning for the top spot, and then the guy who won actually just did Haywood Banks's toast. So
but he drummed with shivs the whole time.
Which they wouldn't let him have forks, so it was sharpened toothbrushes. At one of my high school talent shows, a guy won most original by playing Haywood Banks's toast.
What is with that? Because in my 8th grade, 2001, somebody did Hey Toast as well for our talent show.
Yeah.
And they got like a standing ovation. I had no idea what it was or who did it until I performed with Haywood Banks.
Yeah.
Many, many years later. And I was like, did you steal that from a guy in my 8th grade
talent show? Yeah. Yeah.
So were you at Holy Redeemer? Were you there? You stole Craig's bit.
Hey man, I can't believe you took his bit and took it on the road. But if you've never seen Haywood Banks, he's a funny comic, but he's just got a song called Toast. That's all you need to know. Go Google it. But that one, most original, was a cover of somebody's song. I'm not bitter about it. So Gavin Loves Horror. Anything else going on?
Not really. Just enjoying life right now, doing stand-up, working on horror stuff. Watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We had some fun conversations about that.
That's true. So did you do a review of that yet on your channel?
I haven't done a review of it yet. I'm actually going to it'll probably be up by the time this gets put out.
Okay.
But I'm not actually going to do a review of it. I'm instead going to look at the overall. I've seen a lot of reactions to the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre where people are just saying, well, it's a slasher, what more do you expect? And I by no means hated it. I thought it could have been way better, but I just want to look at how there's this lowered expectation for slashers, and I think that we should expect more as horror fans. Like, just because something has Leatherface in it doesn't mean it can't be an actually good movie.
Well, and also you have to love nothing like fans of something to really ruin something. Like, either whether you love it or hate it, you just scroll through stuff that you love, and you're just the hate for something that you just like Star Wars fans. I'm not a Star Wars guy. I like the thing, but so many like, oh, they could have done better. Just enjoy the thing, man. I don't know.
Every fandom I have, like, and I've got some niche fandoms. Like, horror is a big one for me, obviously. I love professional wrestling. I like Star Wars, and it's like, I hate everybody else who likes this thing that I love so much. It's like, okay, This movie was fine. I did do a fun video that I will plug where I talked about, I went on Amazon and found the best 1-star reviews of classic horror movies. So I talk about like 1-star reviews of like The Exorcist and Alien. And so if you want to laugh, I'm pretty proud of that video. So check that out.
That's a great unique take that probably Haywood Banks has done, but
I stole it from Haywood Banks. I also do the 1-star reviews of Toast on Amazon as well.
Well, last episode we touched on this one. It was I just ran out of time talking about this because it's a 25-minute intro, and I watched it today. I've seen this movie, but rewatching it, blown away, and it did not feel like 25 minutes, but Saving Private Ryan.
Such a good opening that I have not watched for many years. I did not rewatch it for this, but I remember it so well. Just the carnage, the desperation, the intensity, and just that nervous tension of the U-boat slowly getting up. They're probably not U-boats. I don't know what kind of boats they are, but they are army boats getting up there on the beaches of Normandy, and you know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. But in 1997, it wasn't played to death in video games. It wasn't in every movie.
Yeah, Medal of Honor or whatever. I remember playing that level. I don't even know what video game it was anymore.
It's all of them. Call of Duty has it. Medal of Honor. I think Medal of Honor Allied Assault actually was the first one, I believe, to have you storm Normandy.
But just I can't imagine. Watching war stuff just makes me convinced that I couldn't be a bigger coward.
Oh, absolutely.
They just lower a gate and they're like, all right, let's storm. And then just machine guns go off and just people are dropping. I'm like, oh my God.
Like people weren't even off the boat.
No.
You didn't even get off the boat. You're getting shot on the boat. You went through basic training. You went through these weeks of hell with people yelling at you, getting you in the best physical shape possible for you to get shot on the boat.
Yeah. And it's not funny, but it just like it is like you're just like open the gate, like, and then they're like jump over the side, and then dudes are just getting shot in the water, and I'm just like, oh my God, like, and I took in college like it was a spring term class, which is a 3-week class hyper focused on one topic, and it was Civil War in film. So many, we just watched movies and wrote papers about it. But just so many scenes of a guy here, drink this whiskey, bite this rag, and let's cut your arm off. And I was like, I couldn't be more anti-slavery, but I'm like, God damn.
Be like, I just took a musket ball and it's getting infected.
Yeah.
How much do I stand for this cause?
Yeah, like if you just got shot at all, you're just dead. You're dead, you know, like
you're like, it hit my foot. Well, guess what? It is now infected and you are dying.
Bite this rag.
Bite this rag. Let's pour some fire on it.
Oh God. But yeah, just Saving Private Ryan. There's so many scenes in it where they're like, it does such a great thing. I don't know what you would call it, but it's a setup where like, Tom Hanks is talking to a guy and he's the guy on the phone trying to relay to other commanders or whatever. And he's like, tell him this. And then he'll turn away and then turn back, tell him this. And then he turns back and the guy's face is just gone. Or like
but did soldier, he tell him?
Or a guy like dragging his friend and then he turns around and there's just a torso where it's like he had legs 2 seconds ago. But I don't know what you would even like a setup where it's like, oh, he has legs and then he turns around. There's no legs, just dragging around like bodies floating. Just such a grim thing when you're, and it's just like, man, I could never do that.
Then it just gets quiet and you just hear people screaming. You're like, this is terrifying.
Yeah, the guy's like, mama, and I like it was just like I started laughing because like it's not funny, but it was also like,
who did you root for in World War? Who are you? Who did you root for?
The Germans, pretty much the Germans. Not Hitler, but the rest of them. You know, Hitler's a bad man.
There were some good people on both sides.
Yeah, okay. Was just like so. Like one of those nervous laughs where I was just like, my God, that has to happen. Just crying out for your mom. You're a grown man. You got no legs, just on the beach.
Yeah. Well, I think it'd been crazy. I think it would have been a really good, it would have been a good artistic choice if Steven Spielberg would have had his mother come to the beach and then put his legs back on and be like, that's all you had to do was call for your mama and she'll come put your legs back on.
There you go. Loosen your legs again.
those were my baby legs.
Guy getting last rites on the beach, and then it's all over. They've stormed the beach. They've won this battle. And then like a guy's all cocky and then just immediately starts crying. Like just, and you, in hindsight, you're like, how many soldiers had to go through life with PTSD without actually acknowledging that was PTSD? Because they'd be like, yeah, my dad's an alcoholic. He's an asshole. But then you're like, you cut to, oh, he saw his friend's legs getting blown off. And you're like, that makes total sense. You know,
I would drink as well if legs were blown off near me or around me.
Yeah, because back in the day, you don't go to therapy. They don't give therapy to people now, like especially veterans. They don't give a shit about that, you know. But
yeah, we're taking a stand here. We need better mental health treatment for our veterans.
It's Steven Spielberg on the blower over. He directed that, right? I should look that up. Okay.
He did. It's one of his most famous works.
And I thought that watching it, but I was like, I got a lot of intros to watch. So
it was Michael Bay, actually.
That explains the big robots.
All the lens flares for every leg that was being shot off.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I see it now. I definitely. But yeah, just I don't know, like it felt like it's a 25-minute movie within this movie.
Yeah, and then there's like 2.5 hours left.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but if it's as exhilarating as the first 25, I'll rewatch that all day long.
It's great. The one scene I remember is is it Tom Hanks or Matt Damon who raises the pistol to shoot at the tank as like a last desperation, and that's when like the air troops come and blow up the tank. It's like and the first time I saw it, like, did he shoot a tank with a pistol and it blew up? That is cool. What kind of rounds did he have in that?
And I'm not even like a war movie guy. Like that's a genre for people, you know.
Yes.
But yeah, and I just like Tom Hanks is just a charismatic everyman. I'm not telling you anything that nobody doesn't know about Tom Hanks, you know.
I don't think a lot of people respect Tom Hanks. I think you're really breaking some new ground on here.
He's such a heel and a turd of a human being.
Have you seen this Tom Hanks fella? He's a little unknown actor.
He was patient zero for COVID. He was Typhoid Mary for COVID.
Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah. Glad I watched that. But despite the horrific imagery.
I like the way we watch horror for fun, late at night, murder shows, all kinds of shit. But like, this war's getting real. This happened to people.
Yeah, you're like, oh, my grandpa was there. No, maybe not there, but yeah, in the war. So let's jump from one war and military movie to another. Full Metal Jacket. I gave you a list to watch. I don't know if you got to all of them. So
I did watch Full Metal Jacket, and I've actually seen Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
Arlie Ermy makes it, if I didn't want to go to the army before Saving Private Ryan, after watching Arlie Ermy yell at people for a good 7 minutes in this, I'm like, I would cry immediately. Like I get a YouTube comment that will hurt my feelings and I will stew on it for days.
Yeah. He was a former Marine, so that's why he was good at that.
Yeah. He had done that job, and like I read like 60% of the dialogue was improvised by him.
Yeah. But then you would just watch him host a military show on the History Channel.
Yeah, and you're like, okay. Or be in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you're like, yeah, this guy sucks and is a piece of shit.
Yeah, I just rewatched part of the 2003 remake after watching, the one we just talked about, and I was like, man, they couldn't have cast this dude any better. Just what a shit person.
Just grabbing boobs of a dead girl, just a terrible, terrible person.
Yeah,
but he is so good in that movie, and just how the take is, how it's shot. I'm not a huge Stanley Kubrick fan. I think I think he was abusive to his actors to the point of it not being productive.
Yeah. Well, that's why I've made you record this podcast 4 or 5 times already to get it fucking right.
You want to get it? I'm also chain smoking like Shelley Duvall right now, and it's like
I'm just shaking
the ashes to my fingers. I'm like, yes, Mr. Tahune, I would love to do your podcast.
I didn't say I was going to hurt you. I just said I was going to bash your fucking brains in. That's all I said.
But I think Stanley Kubrick has some good movies. I really enjoy Full Metal Jacket. I think that's a really great movie, and he gets real authentic performances, but just Arlie Ermy going up and down the aisle, just racial slurs, and just all of them. He says all of them most of at like the same person. Yeah,
it's just
you can't be all those things.
Yeah. But then also I get the feeling like I don't think he's racist. I just said he was. I think he's just saying it for shock value. You know,
he said that he doesn't care if you're this
blankety blank. You know,
yeah. So it's like, oh, maybe that's the true wokeness.
That's true. World. Well, and my brother was in the Marines. Thanks for bringing him up. And I just heard stories of you learn that a boot camp, and I don't know the psychology of it, but it seems like what a 3-month course of brainwash to like, you know, you are the core is you, like, and I'm not saying my brother was this way, but that's how you have to program soldiers to have the gate drop and you run on the beach. Like you can't, like you just have
say no.
I know, but you also have to be willing to do that, you know?
You gotta get on the boat.
Yeah, one of my favorite phrases that my brother told me that they would say was the drill sergeants would get in your face and they'd be like, "Are you I fucking me, Terhune? Are you I fucking me?" Like, just that's a phrase that I like, just so funny. You I fucking me, but
you're like, maybe I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah,
maybe.
But yeah, just a great opening scene, and I love I have to rewatch that movie. I've seen it once within the past couple of years. And I love the first half of that movie. I'd have to rewatch it all.
Yeah, it's really 2 movies, because there's the first half up until Private Pile falls in love with his gun.
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Vincent D'Onofrio. I also remember, don't they beat him with soap?
Maybe they put it in a sock. That's a prison thing too. Sock full of soap.
Yeah. But then after Private Pile does what Private Pile does, it's like a whole other movie where it's like not as interesting. It's just not super.
It's a war movie. Like to me, the basic training shit was more interesting, but it's more self-contained. And then another war movie. I've never seen this movie, so this is a great exercise in watching the first 1/12 of a movie, but Apocalypse Now. And I know that's crazy for people to hear me like, you've never seen Apocalypse. No, I just haven't, not yet.
I haven't either. I don't have 15 hours to watch this Marlon Brando masterpiece, but I've heard it's very good. I did not watch the opening scene for this.
Okay,
what is the opening scene?
It's set again, and I don't know how you felt, because I watch all these on YouTube and I type in blank opening scene. Yes, and then I have to trust that what pops up is the opening scene for a movie that I've never seen.
I was Googling, like, is this really the opening scene? Yeah. I don't want people who listen to the podcast to be like, that's like 30 minutes in, dude. It's like, because I one of them that we'll get to here is Goodfellas, and I watched what was called opening scene, and then I was like, no, that went too far to the open. So it's that's the thing where I was like, I think that's the opening scene. So it's set to the Doors. This is the end, and it's, you know, flashbacks to Vietnam, and then Martin Sheen, and like, I don't know if it's a hotel room, but like he's left the jungle, but then was still in the jungle when he was back home, and got divorced from his wife, and is back, like waiting to go back into the jungle, clearly just psychologically messed up. So I need to see the whole movie, and it's like we're a bunch of fake experts on this stuff. So it's like, I think that was the opening, but yeah, I need to watch that again. What's funny is we set ourselves up for failure. We could have just not talked about it.
I know,
but here we are, just like, we're like, yeah, we kind of half-assed it. We just kind of Googled it. We think that's the opening scene. There was
the best.
It was
opening
animated,
scenes
right?
The movies. Yeah,
it was animated.
It was animated, and And it was I think I watched the beginning of the Simpsons movie now that I think about it. So I think that's the war movies that people said to watch. And here's one that I didn't even tell you about, but I meant to talk about last time, was The Lion King. Yeah. And we could talk about this briefly, but just it's like the opening to, it was like Africa open for business. All the animals come out. They're like they came out as the sun comes up. I thought it's a great opening, and I like the movie. Haven't seen it.
Tells a story, doesn't say a word.
Yeah.
And Africa opens for business. You watch all the antelopes like, well, time to get up and pay our respects to the person that's going to eat us later.
Time to make the donuts. But yeah, I like it. And it's, it's, again, that's such a, I guess, an iconic thing of the baboon holding up Simba. And
everybody holds babies like that.
Yeah, I do too. Michael Jackson does it. But yeah, that's again, I if you talk about opening scenes, that's one. And you've seen it. I think most people have seen it, but yeah, nothing to say. Then I enjoyed it. And opening scenes are so like improved when the soundtrack is great. It could be a good opening scene, and it's made great by whatever music's playing. Yep, that's it. That's exactly it.
I nailed it. I'm actually reading the lyrics right now.
I would love to see the beginning of Lion King, but this is the end. Like this, just the doors over. Let's switch the soundtracks and see.
You know what would be really good? Johnny Cash's Hurt.
I wear this crown of thorns.
What have I become?
Which one do you want to jump to next?
Well, I mentioned it. Let's talk about let's get into Mafia here for a little bit. Let's get into our Mafia portion. So I've seen Goodfellas, love Goodfellas, love all the Martin Scorsese Mafia epics. So I looked up Goodfellas opening scene. I own the Blu-ray, didn't want to put it in, too lazy to do that.
Yeah.
Too lazy. So I said opening scene, and it cuts to the first one I watched was Ray Liotta going, "For as long as I remember, I've always wanted to be a gangster." Goodfellas. Then he's like looking out the window watching like all the mobsters pull up and stuff like that. And then I was like, well, I feel like I came in too late. So the actual opening scene is when they're driving in the car. It's Danny DeVito, Robert De Niro, Ray Liotta driving a car, and they're like sitting there. You can tell they've done some bad shit. And you hear somebody in the trunk start just banging on it. There's somebody in this trunk. So
Phil Leotardo, it's not Phil, but he's from The Sopranos.
Everybody who's in Sopranos is also in Goodfellas.
That's true.
It's their same characters in my mind. So Phil Leotardo does come back.
Get your fucking shine box.
So they pull over, and I think they're like, we're renting a shovel to like open it up. They open up the trunk. There's a guy still in there. He's not dead. And then Joe Pesci. I know.
When you said Danny DeVito in my head, I'm like, I don't think that's right, but I'm also trying to listen to Gavin.
I don't know why.
I mean, the most small.
Did I not watch the right opening scene? Because Danny DeVito this was an Always Sunny episode.
I was going to say, I think you were, because you said that, and I was like, in my head, I'm like, I don't think that's right. But I also wanted to be an attentive host of the show and listen. Joe Pesci and Macaulay Culkin was there. Was it Macaulay Culkin in the trunk?
It was. He's like,
French your freaking fraggot.
So then Joe Pesci just stabs the shit out of this guy. And they're like, oh, you're still alive, huh? Just fucking die. And then Robert De Niro just shoots him like 3 times to make sure. It's like, this poor if you're in the trunk, just shut up. Don't make noise. Just like
fake it. Yeah.
Fake dying until you can get a shovel. But then it cuts to, for as long as I remember, I've always wanted to be a gangster. So that's the real opening scene that I watched on my second try.
Yeah. Well, and then it cuts back later in the movie. I remember I had this DVD, and it was one where you had to flip the DVD to get the second part of the movie. you had to flip it like a record. And I was, because I had never seen it the first time, and I was watching on DVD, and I was like, hold on, did it just end? What happened? Was this the Sopranos ending for this movie?
Is that where they got the ending from?
Yeah, I think that's what they, and like again, back to that Civil War and film class, there was like it was a 2-part DVD of Gone with the Wind, and I accidentally watched the second part first. And I was like, man, this jumped into crazy stuff. Like,
did you watched it like the guy in Memento? You're like, I don't have any short-term memory. I'm just here now and Gone with the Wind.
And I'm trying to think, the Gone with the Wind, what is the runtime on that movie? Because it's not
long.
short. It's 4 hours. So I watched a 2-hour thing and then was like, oh, this makes all the sense. What an idiot.
So what did you, when you saw the credits, you were like, I bet this other disc is just the post credits.
Yeah. I didn't know. It was probably like one of those DVDs where it was just silver and then the title was in small print around the little hole. And so again, that's why I was like, is this the real opening scene to this movie? Because I've never seen it. So
I did something similar. I have, and this is unrelated, Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. There is an R-rated version and a regular version.
Is that are you talking about the cartoon or the Ben Affleck?
The Ben Affleck
okay
one.
Yeah.
So there's an R-rated version and a regular version. The Blu-rays were not marked well. So I put one in and I watched the whole thing thinking I was watching the uncut version. And I'm like watching it because I hadn't seen it for the first time since theaters. I was like, this is a lot better than I remember. This is great. They really added a lot of stuff. And then I realized I'd watched the theatrical cut again.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so much better than I remember. They really fleshed out this character.
Yeah. It's like if somebody handed you a glass of wine and told you it was fancy, and you're like, "This is fancy." Right? Like,
is this cranberry juice? No, it's definitely wine.
It's from an Ocean Spray bottle, but
that's funny. But you Pulp Fictioned yourself into watching Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, but there's nothing you can't say about just overall. Goodfellas is just one of the best movies. Again, it's a one that comes on TV and you're like, I don't know where it is in the movie, but I'm gonna watch it.
It's always Lorraine Baraka where pouring cocaine into a toilet. That's always the scene that you see.
Why did you do that, Karen? Oh God. Then we can jump to I think the only other Mafia entry on our list, but the Godfather. The wedding scene, and it's so iconic of you got a favor on your daughter's wedding day. But yeah, just I like the Godfather, but it's not my favorite. But how do you feel about it?
I like the Godfather. It's that wedding scene is so long that you have to be like, is it the whole? Is it the whole? Him asking it, because is it like the whole thing? But you have the actor who's like, I need somebody. He's like, be a man, and like he's screaming at the actor for not stepping up. You have the guy who's like, my daughter, she was beaten. And he's like, you don't come to me like a friend. You come to me on my day. There's no justice.
You come have coffee with me or what? I don't remember.
What coffee. You come to you pay me no respect. You don't call me Godfather. And he's just like, and then the guy's like, yes, Godfather. He's like, then justice will be had. This is my wedding. And it's such it lets you know everything you need to know about all those characters in that movie, where he is a just man. He will do favors. He's going to honor them. But like he says, there may be a day, and that day may never come when I ask you to return this favor, and on that day you will. And you're like, well, fuck, this guy's fuck now. So
yeah, he's tied in, and that never. Like, I've watched enough Mafia stuff to know that when you get tied into the Mafia, it never ends well for you.
It's never like, I got my friend over here, Joey Tight Lips, and it's like we just hang out. We never do anything. I think about The Sopranos and how the T-1000 Robert Patrick's character,
Davey Scatino, they busted him out.
Like, this is kind of what I do. He lost everything, and now playing the cards. So you don't want to be a friend with if you're friends with the mafia guy, just be friends. Don't borrow anything. Just be like,
just
how you
be
doing,
his
sir?
florist. Don't, like.
You want to be the florist at the wedding. You don't want to be asking for favors at the wedding.
Yeah. And there is that one scene when the guy's like asking the favor and he's so nervous. And from what I've heard from the documentaries or whatever, like he really was just fucking his lines up, and they're like, just film him messing up the lines.
And that man saying that was Stanley Kubrick. Just
That's
fucking
true.
really yell at him a little bit.
Yeah, just bust him over the head. But yeah, again, Godfather's really good.
Really?
I'd give it like a 7 out of 10. No.
and like we talked last time, the Godfather's opening scene is so iconic because it's been parodied to death. Where it's like, I'm gonna make an offer, can't refuse, and just all these, and you've got shitty people like me doing accents about it because it's just so well known and like
culturally appropriating.
I am culturally appropriating the Italians. Gabagool. The gabagool. So that's how you know it's truly an iconic opening, that it just feels like its own movie, and it's just it's such a good, so good. Love it. And it's not our last mafia movie, because we also have on this list Reservoir Dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind of
That's
a
the
mafia
Mafia.
movie. It's the Mafia. You get to hear Quentin Tarantino talk about virgins and stuff.
Yeah, the big black dicks.
It's about, it hurts. It's the first time it hurts her. I remember watching that movie for the first time with a group of friends, and we were all like 15, 16, and we were watching it with our parents were friends, so like our moms were there, and we're like watching him talk about like hymens and like fucking, and, like, and just,
oh no,
just dick, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
My mom shouldn't be here.
Yeah, Reservoir Dogs, that's not one you want parents to be around.
But it really, being Quentin Tarantino's first movie out, like, it showed that he's great at writing dialogue, long conversations about nothing that people would just talk about, even the whole tipping thing.
I used to do that all the time. What do you mean you don't tip the lady?
I don't tip.
Lawrence Tierney is just I heard he got in a fight and like got kicked off the set of Reservoir Dogs just being an asshole. And eventually they patched it up, but yeah, and I think, doesn't the camera spin around the table?
It's just constantly spinning. Yeah, it's just constantly spinning.
And then you get the iconic slow walk with the suits, and that's been parodied forever,
Yeah, you get all the introduction to the characters. Yeah, when I think it's one of Quentin Tarantino's best openings. I know that we talked about Inglourious Bastards and Pulp Fiction, so the man knows how to make an opening.
Yeah.
So he definitely has mastered that craft. But yeah, for being his first his directorial debut, and to have it, because if you're just going, I thought Reservoir Dogs was going to be much more action packed by just seeing the cover and basically all that. But you're like, this is just, they're having some long ass conversations in this movie.
Yeah,
but
that could be a play.
I have seen it as a play.
Oh, really?
There was a theater company here in Evansville, Indiana, that back in, I think, like 2008, 2009, actually did adapt it as a stage play.
Okay.
And they did everything they could. It was just basically word for word Reservoir Dogs. Super good. Really enjoyed it.
And I also, the thing that I like about Reservoir Dogs is the thing that the whole movie's based around is a robbery is not really shown. You get the aftermath of it.
I have known people, I had a friend who was convinced that he saw a copy with the robbery intact, like one of those Mandela effect things. Yeah. He's like, no, I rented it from this video store across there, and you see like Mr. Pink shooting people. You see him robbing the bank. You see him go into the bank. I was like, for years I looked for this footage. It does not exist because they did not shoot it, but he was convinced that I saw the version with the robbery. I was like, did you watch an actual robbery? And he merged it.
I put the DVD in the slot and I walked to the car and I turned around. The video store was gone.
I put the wrong disc of Gone with the Wind in and I saw the robbery.
I did see that in the middle of Gone with the Wind.
Is that where they put it? Is that where they hit it?
Quite frankly, I need the fucking diamonds. Where are the stones at?
Yeah, I do like I think Isn't Reservoir Dogs your favorite Tarantino movie?
No, it was Jackie Brown.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, which I rewatched twice in the past week. So
have you really?
That's how much time I have on my hand. I was on the road for a part of it, and then I just kind of put it on as background stuff. But yeah,
okay,
unabashedly, that's my favorite Tarantino movie.
Good for you.
Let's go from one Mafia movie to another. XMen 2, XMen United.
This was like for a long time one of the crown jewels of comic book movies. I don't like the movie that much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a huge fan of this movie as a whole. I think it's kind of boring and like, have you seen X-Men 2?
Yeah, it's the one with Phoenix, right? Or is that the third one?
That's the third one.
Okay, X-Men 2. I have seen it, but now I'm like, I don't know. I've drawn a blank.
It's got William Stryker in it. It's got the dad from Succession.
Oh,
as
yeah,
like
they're
the
at
main
the
bad
dam.
guy.
I remember that.
Yeah, they're at the dam, and he's got like his son who has like powers, like Jason. Yeah. He's like, I find it very boring. But the opening scene with Nightcrawler going to, again, trying to make sure I watch the right opening scene.
Yeah.
But it's Nightcrawler in the White House, which Alan Cummings is it Alan? Yeah, it's Alan Cummings as I get him and Adrian Brody confused.
Mm-hmm.
But Alan Cummings as Nightcrawler, weird casting, honestly, but it wasn't bad.
No.
But for 2003, having those effects and like it's got good effects, it's got good action. It shows like, oh, a mutant could just fuck up the president.
Get in the White House. I also like seeing the interior of something that a building we all know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the White House actually looks like that. I'm sure I could watch a documentary and it would tell me, but I'd rather believe it's the X2 version.
I've watched enough Veep to know that's what the White House looks like.
I didn't watch House of Cards, so
clearly.
And I finished it post Kevin Spacey shit. I was like, I'm going to stick with this show.
But yeah, watching Nightcrawler just teleport everywhere and just beat people up and like goes to stab the president but gets shot at the last moment. You're like, oh, a mutant almost killed the president.
Yeah, and it was that easy. It took 2.5 minutes. So
2.5 minutes real time.
Yeah,
of just people just getting that they couldn't do it. And I think that really showed how dangerous mutants can be if they're not all registered and put on the register, if they're not all kept in check or something.
We got to shut these mutants down. Man, who would have thought all this social commentary would still be relevant today?
I know, it's like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. Something like, I don't know, something like that. But it was really, it's a good opening, and I haven't watched that movie in many years because, like I said, it's not my favorite to put on.
Yeah,
but it's a great opening. I think it's really good. Yeah,
again, if you could jump into an opening and it's action, like you're kind of in the middle of the movie at the beginning. I like that,
Yeah.
Super Troopers. Here's one that I pulled up the intro, and I was like, man, this is really shitty quality for this intro. And then it turned out I was watching a fan-made recut.
What?
Like some fans, it's from a long time ago, but it has like 12 or it has like 1 million views or whatever, like 12 years ago. But some fans remade the intro to Super Troopers, so that's what I started to watch. And I was like, man, this is really bad quality, and the camera's shaky. And then
I love this topic. It should be so easy. Openings of movies. You just start a movie at the beginning, but we're lazy and we don't have time to track down DVDs or other copies. I was like, we'll just Google this, and whatever Google gives us, we will take as the God's honest truth.
And then the one cop gets out of the car. It's the Indian guy. I think he's Indian, and he's got you can't mistake this guy. And then the guy gets out of the car. I'm like, that's not the cop from the movie. And then I looked, I'm like, oh, they're like, yeah, we recut the Super Trooper beginning. So I was like, okay, I got it. But I was like, I believed that it was the beginning, despite the quality of it. So
yeah.
But I did rewatch the full beginning, and that was a staple back in like grade school and high school with Super Troopers. Just a lot of funny lines, and you just will say littering and yeah, it made me laugh. So that's what I can't ask for much with a comedy. If you made me laugh,
pull over.
We can't pull over anymore. Like
we're already pulled over.
I do like when they speed off and the guy's like, shit, I was about to pull out my nine and bust a cop in that pig's ass. And then the car speeds back and he's like, oh God. But yeah, that's Super Troopers. I don't know if you had any other thoughts on that.
I like Super Troopers. I think I think those are some underrated gems in the comedy world. And I think if people are finally coming around to them and being like, those were super underrated. They were really funny.
Yeah, the Broken Lizard Crew. Yeah,
I like the second one a lot too.
I didn't see that one, but I will say Leader of Cola all the time. So Ghost Ship, which is we talked probably a lot of horror last time since you and I are big horror guys, but I saw this on the Twitter people tweeting in Ghost Ship, and I had seen this movie, rewatched it. Can't disagree.
I know Ghost Ship for two things.
Mm-hmm.
One, the opening scene we're about to talk about, and two, their liberal use of the band Mudvayne. And like Mudvayne is all over that movie, which I like Mudvayne, so I like the opening scene. I like Mudvayne. It's just weird. It's a weird time capsule of like, they put a lot of Mudvayne in this.
Which isn't Mudvayne, isn't that like the slang for like a poop shoot?
Is it?
I think so.
I've never known that.
Well, I'm looking up on Urban Dictionary. It says one of the worst bands today. The only good album was blah blah blah. I think Mudvayne, like that's slang for like the poop. I don't know what you would call that.
Butthole. Are you
the butthole? Either way, there are a couple of songs I do like of Mudvayne, but it takes me back to like the station is like would be like the Bear or the Jackal. Like that's who plays those.
103 GBF, the River City Rocker. I work for that station. So
okay. Like, well, nobody plays more rock than that station.
Right now, here's Mudvayne with Happy. Rocking your work day. So Ghost Ship, it's not known for much else. Like the movie's not super good, but the opening scene belongs in a much better movie.
Yeah. Well, and to fill people in, it's like an old, like 1940s, like party. People are dancing on the deck, having a good time, band playing.
They're on a boat, hence Ghost Ship.
On a boat. And then something happens where like one of the wires on the, like an anchor wire or something gets really tight and just cuts the whole crew and everybody on the deck in half. And then anytime you get that somebody cut in half, you get that slow motion of watching their body slide off the rest of their body.
And it's made all the more horrific because there is a small girl who's like dancing with like her grandpa, and she's short enough that she does not get sliced by this wire. And just the way they shot it, where you see the wire getting tighter and tighter, and then it just snaps, and it just and you see it just fly across the crowd, and then it stops, and there's like blood dripping off of it. So you know, oh no, this went through meat. This went through a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then it lets it breathe for a second. Everybody just stops talking. The music stops, and the girl just
Mudvayne stops. Mudvayne's at this 1940s.
Dude, Mudvayne stopped playing. Mudvayne, they stop playing in their makeup, and suddenly the girl looks up, and like her grandpa is just like slides in half, his head falls off. It's incredible. It's a really good, and this was early 2000s, so there wasn't a lot of wire cut death stuff at that point, because I think it did
2002, by the way.
2002. Did this come out before?
What movie are you thinking? I'll Google it.
I'm thinking of Final Destination 2. Did this predate Final Destination? Yeah,
2003. Yeah.
So there's a wire death in Final Destination 2 as well. Where
is that the fence one?
The fence one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So props to Ghost Ship for doing the wire cut stuff before Final Destination, which I would more associate it with, because I've seen that movie more.
And you know, if you're thinking about watching this movie and you're pressed for time, just watch the intro. You've seen the best part.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil anything, but all those people that get cut in half, they become ghosts on the ship.
Yep.
Including Mudvayne, who are the most rockin' ghosts.
It's they're like nearly headless Nick in the Harry Potter series.
Hello, everyone. So yeah, Ghost Ship, that's a good one, and one that is easily forgotten. And I don't feel like it's talked about enough.
Yeah. One that I saw initially that everybody loved it, and I watched it, and I was like, I don't get the appeal, but I watched the opening scene just before we went on air here, and I'm like, I got to rewatch this movie. Was Drive.
I love Drive. Have you ever seen Drive? Have you seen the whole thing?
I've seen the whole thing, and I think it was I was a victim of this movie's great, and you hear that over and over again. And I watched it, and it just didn't live up to my expectations of what it's. I loved the opening scene. I need to rewatch this.
Yeah, I love the movie. It is weird. It's a weird movie, and it really got Ryan Gosling away from just being the guy from The Notebook. It kind of legitimized him as like being a really good actor.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a weird movie overall. You got Joan from Mad Men in it for a little bit, being like a robber and just a weird friendship with a neighbor lady. But that opening scene of him picking up the people who do the robbery and just how committed he is and how strict he is with his rules, and just the creative way how he switches cars, like walks out with the hat on.
It's synchronized with the Lakers game. Like it's plants the seed, and then the fourth quarter lets out, and he pulls into the garage.
Yeah,
because I forgot where this was going, and I was like, oh, the traffic. It's great.
If that game goes to overtime, he's screwed.
That's true. Things have to work out, you know.
You got to make sure the Lakers have a pretty good handle on things. You don't want any surprises. But yeah, just how strict he is and how he's got the time, and he's like no more, no less, and he's a professional.
He's a driver, and then it was tense from the jump, much like Inglourious Bastards, and then the soundtrack was good. So I need to revisit this movie.
The movie has a really good soundtrack. Like I said, it feels unbalanced and weird at times. I love it. I think it's definitely it's definitely what I like to call an art film. It's very artsy, very, very hipster, but I enjoy it for what it is. And I think Ryan Gosling does a really great job in it. So it's not nice. Yeah.
I think it could have used more Mudvayne, but I'll let it slide.
Just imagine if they had Dig playing during that entire.
It just would have been so good. Couldn't hear the Lakers game at all.
What if that was one of his rules? He's like, you get in my car, okay? 3 men, I'm the driver. I listen to Mudvayne the entire time.
And he plays it on a cassette. It's got to be a cassette for some reason.
Do you not like Mudvayne? Then I don't do the job. You will be on time. You will be in the chorus of Dig. If you're not here by the chorus of Dig, I will leave.
We've got Drive, and then here's one I didn't tell you about. It just I watched an intro and it popped up on the next thing on YouTube. We go from Drive to Baby Driver. Have you seen that?
Yes, Baby Driver is the opposite of a hipster movie that I thought Baby Driver was fine, but it tries so hard to be hipster that I'm like, too much. This is too much for me.
Okay.
But he does have, that's when he is doing all the fancy driving at the beginning, correct?
Yeah, and that's all synced to music like the whole movie is. But again, it's not my favorite movie. But I was like, yeah, I like I'm a sucker for car chase stuff. Even though like I don't put those movies on, but when they're on, I'm like, oh, I like this.
I can get very skewed opinions about movies. This is one of my faults, like inherently as a person. If somebody I just dislike, like just somebody I don't like, will rant about a movie, I'll be like, well, I didn't like it that much.
Yeah, you hate them so much that you can't even like the things that they like.
Like, it was good, but I saw somebody who I think is just kind of pretentious on Facebook when it came out, like, that was one of the most greatest masterpieces I've ever seen put to film ever. Like, his use of music just incredible. I was like, it wasn't that fucking good. Yeah. So that's one of my fault as a person. It's a fine film. It has a great opening. I like car chase stuff like you do, but just a little too hipster for me.
To me, it sounds like Charlie Manson could go on a rant about how great pizza was, and you'd be like, it's not that good. You could be eating pizza.
What if I said I like pizza more now? Be like, I think I really feel like pizza gets a bad. I feel like I respect pizza a lot more now. Now that Charlie's into it. Yeah, he's saying some good stuff. He's like, when the moon hits your eye, it's a big pizza pie. Like, Charlie, what are you? Your poetry is wonderful.
When the moon hits your eye, that's a race war.
Helter Skelter.
Here's one that I don't think you got to watch and you mentioned, but everybody said it and I watched it. But it's The Way of the Gun. It's a quick 2.5 minutes type thing, and it features heavily Sarah Silverman. Somebody's sitting on a car and the alarm goes off. So the guy hits the key fob and is like, "Get the fuck off the car." And then Sarah Silverman chimes in, and just the loudest mouth woman in the parking lot. And he's like, "You like to fuck babies? You want to fuck little boys, huh?" She's that typical, like, "My boyfriend's going to kick your ass." And then they go to fight, and the guy just punches Sarah Silverman straight in the mouth. And in the comments, it's like, "That's the best thing that happened in this movie was Sarah Silverman get punched." And it's not like they didn't say her character. People in the comments were like, "Sarah Silverman got punched." So again, it seemed like a fine intro to me. I've never seen this movie. I probably won't, but it was The Way of the Gun.
I think I have seen it, or at least tried to rent it at one point. Yeah. I just can't, it's just been too long. So the opening doesn't sound familiar, but the movie title does.
Yeah. I do enjoy whether it's a man or a woman speaking for somebody else. And she's always like, "My boyfriend's, he's not gay, but he's going to fuck you at a principal." Like, just talking all the shit when you're not the person backing it up. Oh, yeah. And the boyfriend had this line that I had to write down. He said, "I'm going to whip you silly and fuck you stupid. You want to do the man dance?" Like, that's such a, like, who says all those words?
That's when you know you're secure in your sexuality, when you're willing to tell another man, "I will fuck you stupid," in a fight.
And a man dance.
In a man dance.
Let me look at this. Boogie Nights. Did you watch that one?
I did.
I never seen this before. So
you've never seen Boogie Nights as a whole?
No, I haven't. That's
you don't know the joy of Mark Wahlberg and his big dick.
I have a huge hog. I know the story, but I just haven't seen it.
It's my big dick. I'll pull out my dick. I'll fuck with my dick. It's great. I'm paraphrasing, but that's the movie. Yeah, I think, is it one take? Was that scene all one take? Because it looks like one take.
Yeah, in the comments on Twitter, people is like, it's all one take. At the very end of the beginning scene, when it cuts between Mark Wahlberg and Smokey from Smokey and the Bandit, or he's the bandit, Burt Reynolds. Then it cuts to two different, but for like 2 minutes, it's like they had to orchestrate people in and out, and I can always appreciate that. You know, the scene in Goodfellas. Yeah, any guy that kind of knows anything about movies, if somebody's never seen Goodfellas, he always leans over on the couch and says, "This was one take." Like,
it's every guy on a first date making a girl watch Goodfellas. I don't know if you know about a lot about film, but this was one take.
It's the same guy that's like, this singer right here, he's actually the drummer. He's not the real singer. Like,
unless they're talking about Phil Collins, then it's both. That's true.
And the guy I'm talking about is me, by the way. So this is the drummer.
I'm the worst. And like Stephanie, my girlfriend, will be like, "Oh, that's the guy from that thing." And I'll be like, "I'm trying to watch this," but then I'm also I'm like, "Hey, can you be quiet for a second? I'm trying to watch this." And then I'm also like, "We just saw this girl in the Don't Look Up movie. That's where I know her from." Yeah. Did you know that they also were a rapper for a really long time?
That's Eve. Or I don't know who you're talking about, but
it was in fact Eve. Okay. How did you know?
I didn't know.
It's was like the only female member of the Rough Riders.
Right, drinking out of gas cans back in the day. I am that guy too. Like, if I want you to watch part of a movie and I'm just waiting for you to see this part, and you're watching the movie and I'll be like, "Hey, watch this. We're sitting in front of a screen. There's no other thing to watch, but I need you to know to watch this. I need you to know that I know you should watch this part."
Again, total hypocrite. I'll be on my phone all during anything, and and then Stephanie will be on her phone. I'll be like, "Are you gonna watch this really clever part?" And then she doesn't, react, because we're watching, like I was talking to you off mic. We're watching The Office together. I've seen The Office like 4 times. She's never seen it. I was like, "This is a really good part," and then she's like, "Okay," and she doesn't laugh as hard. Like, "Well, what the fuck are we even doing? What are we doing this for?"
Makes me question our whole relationship. But Boogie Nights,
he spilled the chili, Stephanie.
Yeah, you got to undercook the onions. That's the secret. But yeah, Boogie Nights. I probably will watch this.
It's super good.
Yeah,
it's really good, and you get to see Mark Wahlberg wearing a fake hog, and it is impressive.
You shouldn't have told me it was fake, because now it's completely ruined it.
You're like, I thought that was his hog the whole time.
That was real. I actually did watch that scene a couple times thinking that was the opening. So
what a hot opening to a movie. It's just like, yo, look at my dick. Whatever. I'm Mark Wahlberg. Look at my dick.
Raising Arizona. I've tried to watch this movie a couple times, and it's not that I can't get through it. It's just I'm an idiot, and I put movies on when I've been up for 13 hours. That's not long. Like, so,
when I've been up for a whole 13 hours, when I've been up a normal human amount of time.
Like for me, 13 hours, that's a long time. When I've been up for like 18 hours and I should be sleeping. So I'm like, let me start this thing I've never seen before. And then I just fall asleep. But I want to watch this because I just heard great things about the movie. And I think it's Coen Brothers. You probably know that. I don't know. I just like the opening, and it told a story in the opening that I can appreciate.
Yeah, and it's been years and years and years. I was very young when I watched Raising Arizona for the first time. But yeah, it's a fun story about how he meets his future wife and all that. He's in prison. He's got the iconic mugshot that many people still think Nicolas Cage should go back to. Yeah.
But the thing is, it wouldn't surprise me if that was his mugshot, though, like.
Yeah, like if Nicolas Cage was arrested today, I'd be like, oh, was he at a Raising Arizona convention?
Yeah.
Was this what he's wearing?
I did write down one line. He said, her insides were a rocky place where my seed could find no purchase. This is like an example of those weird, like, redneck people, but they also speak in a way where I'm like, that's like Mark Twainish, like in the olden days, where it's like kind of like, I'm impressed that you're that articulate, but you still sound dumb. And I know that's not the way to be, but I just can't unprogram my brain.
Where you can't tell if it's like, is this the dumbest shit I've ever heard, or is this the most profound thing I will ever think about in my entire life?
He's the guy that's like, that's the man what hit him with the car. Like, like but then you'll say something, I'm like, oh, that's really smart. But then you just said turlet, We've gone through a lot of these, so I don't know what are the ones we got to cover. I know you mentioned two, so let's talk about you two.
So going Nicolas Cage, I love him. It's established. Last episode I talked about Face Off, how the movie opens up with him shooting a child, how every movie should open. I don't care what it is, kids movies, romantic comedies, should start with Nicolas Cage shooting a child. Doesn't have to be related, just a hot open for any movie.
And then this one, he's trying to get a child. That's the complete opposite.
So the movie Conair, which Conair came out within a year of Face Off, just a big time in Nicolas Cage's life for over the top performances. So the opening to Conair is he is a ranger coming back from war. He's been stationed elsewhere. He's coming back. He's seeing his baby. His wife is pregnant. They're gonna have a good life. He's at a bar hanging out, and then he's like kissing his wife's stomach. Oh, I love my baby. My baby's so good. And then some dudes at the bar are just like, fuck the army. like,
how you just disrespect the military.
Yeah. And they're like, you're the pussies like you's the reason we lost Vietnam. And he's like, please don't do that. And like, he's trying to be he has a very weird accent in this movie. He's like, I don't need you to put the bunny back in the box. So he talks like that, and he tries to de-escalate the situation, but they follow him outside, these ruffians, and they fight him, and he ends up killing them in self-defense because they have a knife. They're trying to kill him. Anyway, he goes to prison because he was in the military. His body was a weapon. It's all bullshit.
Okay,
it's clear self-defense, but just the idea of him trying to just go to a bar and then being like, fuck the army.
Like,
what? This is Alabama. At a bar in Alabama, they should be buying him drinks.
Yeah. Let me suck your dick real quick. That's how much, like,
where do you think you are, Chicago? Like,
it also sounds like to me, which I've not seen this movie, so you're explaining it to me, but it's also, he seems like a guy that's like, I promise not to use my skills anymore, not since the accident.
So yeah, Conair is just incredible movie. It's so good. John Cusack refuses to acknowledge he did the movie. He hates talking about it because it's so over the top and so good. Like John Cusack's like, I don't know if I did Conair. You were in it, bro. You're in it.
Yeah.
So just the idea that he's going to jail because he defended his woman is always a good time.
You got to defend your woman, man. And you know, even if she's like, you like to fuck kids, you like to fuck little boys,
put the bunny back in the box. And then finally, one that my friend Dan actually pointed out, because I was talking about being on this podcast. He's like, oh, well, you should talk about Blade, the original Blade with Wesley Snipes, which that movie really saved Marvel from bankruptcy. Them being able to sell the rights to Blade for a studio to make to New Line Cinema, and then being able to get the money from that movie really saved the studio. And without Blade, we really wouldn't have like the Marvel universe that we know today.
That's so, and I'm not a big superhero guy, but everything I've heard, that's what I heard is like Blade was the first one, because it's not. Yeah. I don't think of comic book movies when I think about Blade.
Yeah, you know? He was a very obscure comic book character, but because he was so obscure and he has such a marketable concept, he's a half vampire who hunts vampires. Like, who doesn't love vampire hunting stuff?
Yeah,
and so that you've seen Blade, obviously.
Yeah,
that opening scene where you're just following the two like the girlfriend and boyfriend, you're following them to like a weird meat factory.
Yeah, all raids take place in meat factories. Have you ever noticed that? Like,
yeah, there's always like you always have to slide like a leg of a cow to get to like the rave. You're like, if you're at a rave and you didn't go through a bunch of beef, like you're not at the right rave.
If you look in the background of Rocky, you could see a rave going on. And he was so disciplined that he stuck there and hit that meat rather than went and partied.
I don't want any ecstasy. I just got poison me. I don't want any. They're like, come on.
They're like, Rocky, man, you've had enough. And he's like, I just talk like this.
So sometimes killing is easy breathing. So yeah, I'm gonna go back and watch Rocky now and be like, there was a rave there. He wasn't lying.
But yeah, who wouldn't love a vampire rave that turns into a slaughter?
It's so the movie came out, I believe, 97, and it's such a time capsule. It's what everybody thought vampires would look like. It's nothing but leather and leather. It's like leather and wife beaters. That is the outfit for a vampire. So the girl takes the guy to the rave. Everybody's dancing. There's a DJ. Suddenly blood starts coming out from the sprinklers. How they rigged that up, I don't know, but they're freaking out. Blade shows up, kills all the vampires in a super cool fight scene, and it really sets the tone for what a badass Wesley Snipes is in this series.
Yeah, and in the middle of the dance scene is the dad from Grounded for Life getting a Hummer. And I only say Hummer because that character would call it a Hummer.
Donald Logue is do you watch What We Do in the Shadows?
No, I haven't.
Series?
Yeah.
He makes a cameo in one of those episodes, and it's a great vampire series. It's very, very funny. But yeah, Donald Logue realizes like he's known for the guy from Blade.
Okay.
So he kind of leans into it. But yeah, it's such a cool scene, and the graphics look a little dated, but not as dated as you think they would.
Yeah. Well, it's also, you just have to understand that movie was like 20 years or whatever. Like sometimes people like, that's outdated. Well, that's how things age, is they become outdated, you know? Like Drive had a big square tube TV, and I'm like, that's just how it is, you know, with a flip phone. So
but yeah, I really like Blade, and just like, where are these vampire raves happening at? I would like to
meat packing plants. Clearly. Philadelphia.
So... Hey, Rock, where's the rave at?
Hey, I don't know. I tested positive for vampire blood. They won't let me fight no more. We forgot to mention this one, and we mentioned musicals, so we have to talk about it. But The Sound of Music.
Oh God, we talked about that in the first 5 minutes, and we wait. If you've been waiting to hear what musical,
yeah, it was Blade.
Actually, it was Ghost Ship with all of our mud face.
That's true. That's what it was.
No. So The Sound of Music, I have not seen it. I hear it's a classic. I've also heard it's boring. So when I Googled Sound of Music opening, as we do, and it's like The Hills Are Alive song, or it's called The Sound of Music. It's not called, but everybody commonly knows it as The Hills Are Alive song.
The hills have eyes.
Oh no.
They should do a mashup of that. Would be a good mashup, is the Julie Andrews and The Hills Have Eyes people.
I'm sure they've done it.
Probably.
That's the opening I actually watched.
Was a nuclear inbred family. They're trying to get Julie Andrews, and they're also Nazis, by the way. So don't forget that.
But they're also a big fan of her singing. So they have taste. Yeah, is that how the movie opens? I guess.
I get, because I had to make sure. So I went to Disney Plus. And because again, I think I put this movie on when I would substitute teach for a music class, and I was doing other stuff, not paying attention to this movie. But yeah, I mean, that's such an iconic opening that I knew it from other things.
Yeah.
But again, this is not for me.
Yeah, I love musicals, but I don't think I'm gonna ever be like, you know what? I'm gonna watch Sound of Music today.
Also, a 3-hour musical, I think it is. So that's 3 hours is a long time for something I like.
Like you can watch Hamilton in 3 hours, under 3 hours, and that's a much better musical.
And I've never seen that either.
You should watch Hamilton. It's very good.
Okay. If there's one thing we've learned from this podcast, watch Hamilton.
It's got a good opening.
I bet it does.
Basically what happens is they go to a meatpacking factory, and he's like, aren't you the president? No, I was never president. And but yeah, so that is The Sound of Music. Yeah.
Well, that's good. We've covered a lot, Gavin, and I'm sure I will see others and be like, we should do a round 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I think 2 rounds for now is
perfect.
Perfect. 2 rounds. You know what? Everybody likes the best 2 out of 3 to end it 2. The best trilogies end at 2.
That's true. This is a trilogy. Which I don't know what that means, but Gavin Loves Horror on YouTube. Yes. I watch your videos. I enjoy them. So if you enjoy stuff, more of the horror persuasion, check that out. You're a funny stand-up comic. I love having you on shows. But anything else you want to plug, Gavin?
Nope. Just doing stand-up March 12th here in Newburgh, Indiana, Jennings Station's Public House. Keith McGill, myself, Danny Browning. It's a very funny show. It's gonna be very, very funny. Follow me on Facebook at Gavin Eddings. Got a fan page with a link to get tickets for that show. 2 shows we're doing. They added a 2nd show, so that's how
popular it was.
That's how popular it is. So should be good. It's an intimate space. Get to hear me do my little skits. And then Gavin Loves Horror on YouTube. I try to put a video up at least once every week, every 2 weeks sometimes, depending on how busy I am with performing and doing other stuff. But I put up content there regularly as well. So yeah, Gavin Loves Horror on YouTube, also Gavin Horror on Instagram and YouTube, our Instagram and Twitter.
Excellent, Gavin. Always loving having you on, and I know the listeners do. So let Gavin know that you enjoy.
Yeah,
being on the show.
Let me know if you ever see, if you go check out my YouTube and you see a video you like, let me know who sent you. Be like, I heard you on Brent's podcast. And I came here, so I always like hearing that feedback, and it makes Brent happy to know that his exposure is helping me out. So
it's true. It was either Brent that sent you or Large Marge. So Large Marge sent me.
If Large Marge sends you, that's pretty impressive, actually.
As I think about it, the time of this recording is the anniversary of her death. So.
Well, cool. What a fun note to end on.
That's not true. I just made that up. But Gavin, thanks for being on the show, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.